to today. Had to get these. These are DOF Solenoid flipper button control boards. I ordered mine with the power supply. These are readily sold on eBay through Philip Ellis IS. Ships fast. And we're going to get into detail today on how these are installed and the benefits of installing them if you just want a simple system. So if you watch some of my previous videos, you know I've already installed 2 Dayton exciters and a bass shaker, or a bass transducer under the bottom there. And truthfully, the bass transducer is what made the biggest impact overall to the feel, the feedback, the haptics. The Daytons were great, but not really what I was looking for. They're still, you get good feel near the flipper area, but I wanted more of a thud, a knock. And the only way to accomplish that is with these solenoids. And big thanks to Philip Ellis for creating these and making the installation so easy. And we'll go over that in a few minutes. So what did he do here? They're pretty much 2 12-volt solenoids coming from the automotive field. And it's easily distinguishable what they are. These are the actual solenoids right here. And what Philip has done is he's created a control board that pretty much hooks in line to the wires already feeding your flippers. So the benefits of that is you don't have to do any software configuration whatsoever. These boards pretty much allow you to power a 12-volt solenoid from the arcade button without interfering with anything else. So it's a great solution for setups where you don't want to have to get complicated. And again, the moment you hit that flipper button, it sends a signal through here and here in between these two, which pretty much closes the circuit and allows the solenoid to go off. Now, another little benefit that he did was he added some kind of feature where it doesn't allow normally when a solenoid has power applied, if you keep power applied to it, it will start to heat up and diminish the life of the solenoid and the effectiveness. So what he's done is he's added some kind of a circuitry in here that doesn't allow it to continue to supply power to the solenoid. Let's say in an instance where you are holding the flipper button to hold the ball up to prepare for your next shot. So these things are badass, and I'm gonna install them today. Okay, so why did I decide to do these after installing Dayton exciters and a bass shaker? I love the haptics that I was getting specifically from the bass shaker. The Dayton exciters did a good job right near the flipper buttons, but I still wasn't getting that knock, you know, the traditional knock you get from a real pinball machine. And I think this is the best way to accomplish it without going overboard and, you know, blowing another $1,000 on full DOF setup for this thing or more. Plus, this is a separate system. I don't have to configure anything with the PC. You hit the flipper button, applies power, makes a knocking sound. You're done. And you get the feel. Now, another thing I've noticed is Philip does supply you with screws. You can see it there. There's 2 screws. There's solenoids. Now, word of advice for ALP owners: this may work well with, you know, homemade cabs, some of those real extreme builds where the side of the cab is made of a thicker material. It's not true with the ALP. I believe he supplies us with 1-inch screws. I could pull one out. It's a 1-inch screw. I am not using that because that will go right through the side of the ALP. So I'm using a 3/4 inch screw. Sure you get that if you're using this for the ALP. It will have to be countersunk a little bit. I believe it's about 4 or 5 millimeters for it to effectively grab onto the side of the ALP, but it will not go through the side of the machine and ruin the artwork. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to apply a strip of 3M double-sided sticky tape along the whole length of this board to give me a little bit more, I guess, adhesion or secure a little better, in addition to the screws. So we'll go over that today. I'm going to disassemble the ALP now, and I'm obviously not going to make a video for that since we've done that in the past, but let's get into it. On the site, Philip gives you the option to purchase these individually from the power unit. I ordered the power unit from him, just made things a lot easier. That is the power unit itself, and it already comes pre-wired. You have to hook up your power end to the opposite end of the solenoid here, and then you wire these in between the existing wires to your flipper switches. All right, I would hope you would know how to get to this point. If not, then maybe this video isn't for you. But it's pretty simple and straightforward. Pull the rails, side rails, front rails, screws, pull the rails themselves, pull the control panel, and then you're able to also remove 4 screws from either corner. And when you do that, you can lift the whole playfield up, but the actual connection under the bottom is pretty tight to the control board or the PCB in the back. So I prefer to just angle it up or lift it up like a hood, and I use this little paint roller thing as my hood prop. So let's get into the meat of it. Now, in order for me to adapt this new piece of hardware, I need to put it in a place that doesn't interfere with where things currently are. So I've left my Dayton exciters where they are, because on this side I cannot put that entire unit because of the plunger box. So they're going to be mounted right about where they're sitting now, but obviously up on the actual board itself. Remember what I told you about the thickness of the wall of this ALP? You can see that right there. So here's the inch screws supplied. There we go. And you can see it went right through it, right through the artwork and everything. So definitely do not use the screws that it comes supplied with unless you want to have a really bad day. Okay, so your power supply, which I'll go over in a little bit, comes with its own connector. This is already wired up, grounded, everything. All you need to do is hook up your power supply to this port here. Then we need to splice in to the black and blue wire on the flipper switches, and runs in through here, comes out through here. So in case you aren't understanding why this needs to be done, 5-volt system, 12-volt system, separating it. Okay? Input for the switches, automatically, anytime the switch is activated, closes the circuit, applies voltage on this side, solenoid turns on and fires. Very cool setup. These little connectors or caps come off. You're going to need a tiny little flathead screwdriver to get in there to insert the wire and tighten it down. It's a little collar in there. Do that for both. Cut in the middle, just cut into the flipper switch wire, feed it into this side, it comes out of this side, goes to the flipper switch. All right. Okay, so now in order to get to flipper switch wires, you're gonna have to cut some of the zip ties that they have here. I advise getting a sharp pair of cutters and cut the head off of the zip tie itself. The head is, the little part that grabs right there. Don't cut that lead end or the part that wraps around. It's easy to cut through wires that you don't want to when you do that. So I've run it back. There were 2 zip ties here. Run it back far enough on both sides, and I can now cut into it, splice into it. Blue will be positive, black will be negative. You will need some extra wire. I believe I'm using 18 gauge. Might be a little bit overkill, but that's what I'm using to extend it to get to the actual control board on that solenoid setup. All right, so now that I've separated my right side, let's do one side at a time. Not that it can be cross-wired or confused because it comes out of each respective side, but this is what I have now. I have my blue and black, which came out of my switch, right? And I'm gonna cut this right here, and I'm gonna add a lead that goes to the solenoid, and then another lead that comes from the solenoid back to the flipper switch. All right, so let's go over the first splice. So what did I do? I connected the positive lead to the blue wire, negatively to the black wire. I'm using speak wire, you can use whatever else you want. Mine's 18 gauge. And when I screwed it into this little connector, as you're looking at it from where it inserts, you want your positive on the right side, your negative on the left side. So as you can see, orientation, let's flip it forward, positive on the right side, negative on the left side. And why is that important? Because it follows the schematic on this board when it hooks in. And it only hooks in one way, as you can see by the indentations of the connector. All right, now I need to wire up a return that goes from the solenoid back to the flipper switch. So I have my balloon back, positive, negative, coming out of the front control board. That's going to go to this side of the input for the solenoid. And then from there, I have a separate wire that's going to come out from this side. That's going to go to the flipper switches. Now you can solder it or not, that's your choice. I did, and then use some electrical tape just to secure it. Again, that's personal preference. I think soldering is best. It will hold out a little bit longer, but that's pretty much the gist of the wiring, minus the power supply that we still have to add to this, which is very simple. What I did do to both, in lieu of changing the screws, was also add a strip of 3M double-sided sticky tape. It's very strong stuff. So I'm hoping that it kind of dampens the type of wood on whatever this is, vibration, but and allows it to adhere a little bit better. But I'm going to be using that and 3 3/4 inch screws. Now, one of the main reasons I love 3M double-sided sticky tape, let me see if I can get a light in here, is that you can position something before screwing it down. And that's what I just did. So it's positioned where I want it. I kept it about an inch below the accelerometer. Again, I'm not using my accelerometer. I advise you to do the same if you're doing mods like this, because it just causes it to register tilts and stuff, but I don't use it. I use the buttons. But as you can see, that's where I have it positioned. Now it's time to screw it down. And there we have it, securely mounted. And the best part is the screws did not come out the side of the artwork, and that's what you want to avoid. But let's see if I can get a better look in there for you. That is where she is mounted. As you can see, there is the accelerometer, and we're going to run the wires to the back. Okay, so your input wires up and leads to the top on this side. If you mounted the solenoid like I did, the way you're supposed to, it will go to the top connection, and then from your bottom connector, clip it in, and then lead that back to your switch. All right, you're going to repeat the process on the left side, and then we'll go over power supply. So I have the left side mounted, same thing as the right side. If you're going to do this, I strongly advise that you have a impact driver, otherwise you're not going to be able to properly countersink the 3/4 inch screws I'm using to get them to the right depth to get to the through the actual side wall of the cabinet there. But time to wire it up. And on your left side, your feed line coming from the front panel here will go to the bottom connection, and from the top connection back to your flipper switch. Now time to run power. All right, so this is the power supply that you get if you order it through Philip. Standard power supply. It's got a plug on one end, and then these two leads already pre-wired to feed the solenoids. So all you have to do is mount this box somewhere inside the ALP. I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape on the flat end here, which should be sufficient enough. Run the power cable out the back of the ALP through the hole back there. Don't know if you can see it, but there it is. And connect each board. Power it up. That's it. Pretty straightforward. And there you go. Double-sided sticky tape. Fold it over at the edge so it's ready. So once you have it in position in there, all you have to do is reach underneath, pull off the backing plastic, whatever that is, and set her down. So there you have it. That's where I mounted my power supply. Power supply leads to a brick I have here, which has 3 things connected to it right now, which is the 2 amplifiers and now my new solenoids. Simple. So, was it worth all that hard work and effort? Let's hear it. And the right side. Part in the bar in the middle there. So once you have that all said and done, I'll put your plate field back down, and I would strongly advise to zip tie a lot of the wires that the zip ties that you cut off when you started. I would strongly advise putting them back on. It helps to limit a lot of the vibration and wire chafing against each other from vibration. It's just advised. So this is my setup. Nice and slow so you can see how I tied everything up. Try to keep it as clean as possible. And once more, before we put the control panel back on, let's give you a good sound of the solenoids going off. It's instant. And now let's see how it plays. Okay, so although I have not put the side rails and front rails and control panel back on, I wanted you to hear and see how it works. So right now we're still have to hit start to play this table, but I will hit the flipper switch. You can hear the solenoid activating. So every time you hit this flipper switch, that solenoid will activate because it again is independent of the system itself. But I kept my original haptics, so we're going to turn everything on and see how it works during gameplay. Again, remember it runs independent of the system, so my haptics are still in, so I should have feedback from my haptics.
Anytime, I'm ready.
So am I.
Are you?
And we should get feedback from the new solenoids. And let's see if there's any delay. Absolutely not. Left side.
Anytime, I'm ready. Are you?
Great. Let's get it all together and I will show you guys gameplay on the native tables, VBX, and some FX3. Turned off the extra haptics that I added, the bass shaker or bass transducer and the Dayton exciters, just so you can hear what it sounds like if you only want to go this route and add these DOF solenoids. The mounting location seemed perfectly fine. I feel it in the flipper area. Obviously it's a little bit more pronounced right here, but that's close enough for me, and the sound that you get from it is pretty great, and the feel you get from it. Can you feel it while your hand's resting there? Absolutely. Truthfully feels like a more powerful version of the arcade 1-up solenoids that they have. I've seen those as a very weak, nothing like these. These are automotive solenoids. They're a lot beefier, more robust, as you shall see yourself if you decide to go this route. So let me turn on the extra haptics, which is the bass shaker. Automatically hear the difference in bass because again the ALP plays audio through the haptics. All right, and then let's get started. What's on here? Let's do left side. And let's see if there's any delay. Ready? Nope. Now you can hear the difference. We're gonna go through some other tables, native and other, through O2G. Obviously the best choice to start off on, one of the native tables. This one's part of the latest Sakurai package, but it's the Universe Deluxe. And one thing I did notice is the flippers do not work unless you have the solenoid haptics on. So if you have them on a separate switch, they have to be on for the flippers to work, because again, that closes the circuit. So plan to have them on. So we're gonna get started here, and I'm going to turn up the volume. I'm also gonna turn on the haptics, so you guys can get a good feel for what it sounds like, at least. Feel, you're gonna have to believe me on this, but it's a good feel on the side, especially where the flipper buttons are between the Dayton exciters and the new solenoids now. Major improvement. So let's get started. Hey Google, turn on Pinball haptics.
Game on.
Let me turn up the volume here.
No fear, people. Captain Zack is here.
Now, just to give you a good indicator of what it sounds and feels like without all the gameplay and music. All right. I personally think the bass shaker transducer
back, Captain Zack.
is one of the best upgrades I've made. But these solenoids, it's so nice to have feel on the side, to have that haptic snap of the solenoid going off.
I never knew there was gravity in space. Do that, honestly.
Bass
Welcome
sound.
back, Captain Zack.
It's coming from the transducer mounted underneath. And that clacking sounds coming from the new solenoids. What you don't hear, but I do feel, is solenoid and the Dayton exciter is mounted right underneath the flippers.
All hope is lost, but maybe one day he will
Let's play
return.
something else. And now we're going to do Attack from Mars, VPX table with the pup pack. I turned down some of the audio from the pup pack because it would obviously take away from what I'm trying to show you, but feels, sounds excellent. And there, again, no discernible lag other than what we've had since an update from a month ago. I haven't updated my ALP and I refuse to do so until AtGames gets their you-know-what together. But for the most part, everything's working. OTG is working. Haptics are working through OTG. I know some have reported that it's not, but, you know, unfortunately, that's the way of things with the way they release updates on a weekly basis. Overkill. Next one up is Creature from the Black Lagoon from Bally. Also VPX table. Fun. Get it, download it, play it.
Now, on with the show.
So I'm assuming this is the way that AtGames intended their haptics to feel, but didn't. Those terrible, whatever you want to call it. But if they would have added these solenoids from the get-go, this machine truly would have not have had as many issues and complaints as it's had thus far. Other than that, I mean, some of the updates, and for the most part, best bang for the buck for, you know, under $1,000 pinball table. virtual that you can play at home. And last but not least, Fishtails from Williams. Available from Steam on FX3. Now what I've noticed is, if you've done my previous mods on the haptics, you do have to turn up the amplifiers for the exciters and the bass shaker a little bit more for the FX3 tables. That is normal. That is the reason we have volume adjustment on the amplifiers, and the reason why I did it that way. So I hope that information was useful for you today. I will post Philip's product link on eBay in the description. Give me some feedback. Let me know how you felt about it. Like and subscribe. Thank you again.